we've been talking about a concept of being overinformed and how that could possibly be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I grew up with the opposite message. It's like knowledge is half the problem. Right, Ron? You've got my little clip there from G.I. Joe? Let's hit it.
Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
Again, the other half we assume is action, but we don't know for certain. Well, I guess back in 1990, a book was published by Neil Postman called Amusing Ourselves to Death, in which he said, information no longer has any relation to the solution of problems. Information no longer has any relation to the solution of problems. He said that he was critical of the information-action ratio, and that he talked about informing ourselves to death was later what he would talk about, not just amusing ourselves to death.
Okay.
How does that resonate with you guys? Information no longer has any relation to the solution of problems.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, just like what I was talking about before the break, we know so much about so much going on overseas. And in most cases, there's nothing we can do about it. We can't help. All we can do is stand by and wring our hands.
Yeah, there's a quote here from the Gospel Coalition that's worth digesting. Here's what they say. The tie between information and action has been severed. Information is now a commodity that can be bought and sold, or used as a form of entertainment, or worn like a garment to enhance one's status. It's true, though, right? I'm very informed. Hello. And Lauren's very friendly. It comes indiscriminately, directed at no one in particular, disconnected from usefulness. We are glutted with information, drowning in information, have no control over it, don't know what to do with it. Our defenses against information glut have broken down. Our information immune system is inoperable. We don't know how to filter it out. We don't know how to reduce it. We don't know how to use it.
So if information is no longer what leads us to action, what does? Do we just act willy-nilly? Do we act on our emotions and not the information that would be facts? I don't understand his message. I get it. We're overwhelmed with information, but so what? I'm not getting where he's going with that.
Yeah, no, that's very good. But you agree with the principle? We perhaps have too much information.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah. In fact, do you remember, Ron? This is going to be wild. Back in the olden days, when breaking news was actually breaking news.
Yes, and it was vetted and true.
And it would actually break into programming.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it was breaking news.
Yeah.
Now, if you go to CNN or Fox, they have that label on the whole day.
Yeah.
They're usually telling you something you already know.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not breaking. They didn't break it recently, but it's still breaking news. I mean, so now okay, so the guy goes on to say, we have an information crisis, and it's at least threefold. We have too much information that moves too fast and is too focused on ourselves. As in, in social media, the algorithms give you information you like.
Right.
And so we've had days, Ron, where you and I come in here and I go, hey, did you hear about X, Y, and Z? You're like, no.
Yeah.
I was like, it was all over my newsfeed. He goes, didn't see it once.
Yes.
Isn't that wild how that happens?
Yeah, it is. And that makes you then, like, for me at least, something that I see and I think, oh, it's all over. They have to have seen it. I'll send an email out to you guys or a message or something sometimes because I now know you might not have seen it because our algorithms are different.
Isn't that wild? With access to so much information, there could be so much of it, you'd miss something important. Do you ever feel this way, Lauren, that there's too much information?
Oh, yeah. I could instantly know about some serial killer in Montana and follow his court case or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do anything about that.
Right.
It just makes me more nervous. It makes me more riled up about something that I actually can't do anything about.
Yes. And you're hinting at what the Gospel Coalition really wanted to point at, is that there's common side effects of being overinformed. And this is your so what, Ron. I'm with you on that. It's like, okay, I think most could agree with the presupposition we have too much information that comes too fast and is too curated to our own interests, all right? But what's the consequence of that? There's a bunch of them. One of them is we become anxious. The person wrote, when a world's worth of breaking news, calamities, injustices, and apocalyptic headlines steadily feed our souls, we naturally feel anxious and on edge. Do you think that's true?
Yes, because the headlines are written to grab your attention, and we rarely read the story to find out it may be the opposite of the headline, or the headline may predict if you eat, I don't know, circus peanuts, you'll grow a third eye in the middle of your forehead.
It feels true to me. But yeah, no.
I don't think our minds are like made to be seeing images of war across the world.
No.
We're too fragile, and not in a bad way. That should be a sobering image to you, and that should bring a lot of sorrow and grief to you. But we're being inundated with images of war all over the world. And we're just like, again, in a good way, we're just like a little too fragile to be seeing that all the time, but we're seeing it all the time.
And I'm not certain how aware we are of that fragility and anxiety that's produced by too much information. Like when I read this, I go, oh yeah, I've been there. But I'm not walking around when I'm experiencing that anxiety from looking through new information or too much information. I'm not really conscious that it's creating that in me.
And empathy burnout's a thing too. You can experience so much that causes you to mourn or feel sad about something that you're just going to stop feeling things. It's your mind's way of protecting you because you've seen too much.
Exactly. Now, there's other side effects of being overinformed that would prove this concept that this is a serious problem for us. But there's a big spiritual consequence that we'll get to at the end. Really intriguing concept from the Gospel Coalition that there could be a real spiritual problem with being over-informed. And I grew up with the message that knowledge is power, right? And I think we hear that a lot. Information is power. And there's a truth to that. But at the end of the day, the question becomes, do we reach a tipping point where too much information becomes destructive? And I think we not only have reached that point now, but we reached it a long time ago and didn't know it. We all feel better about ourselves knowing what's happening in one sense, but I think it's destroying us in others. So the writer here in the Gospel Coalition says there's a bunch of common side effects of being overinformed. One of them we talked about being anxious, duh. Another, we become angry. Rising blood pressure and seething anger follow when we're constantly exposed to partisan clickbait, triggering troll provocations, and other forms of foolish talk. Yeah?
Yep.
You and I have sent each other text messages about things that make us angry on the internet. But it's an emotion that's easy to trigger,
Right.
We've become addicted to too much information. Algorithms easily figure out what types of information you can't resist. Soon we're scrolling and we're seeing all the intoxicating things that we want to see. Yeah?
Yeah. And we lose our sense of empathy. That it's like, okay, they had a hurricane in Florida.
Sorry about it.
Yeah, I feel really bad. Oh,
Well,
next week it's a hurricane that settles over North Carolina and floods them. Oh, I feel really bad. Oh, now there's fires in California. I feel really bad about them. And suddenly you don't really feel bad for any of them.
No.
It's just as long as it's not in my area, my home, be gone with you.
And that's the next side effect of being overinformed is you become numb. And the way they paint the picture is so good. It's the idea that you would be scrolling, see a horrific mass shooting, and go like, oh, it's terrible. Scroll up. Vacation photo. Oh, look at it. Oh, the Johnsons are in the Caribbean. Isn't that fun? Meanwhile, you just passed a mass shooting. It's like, what? You become numb to it. Another consequence or side effect of being overinformed, you become lonely. We spend large segments of our lives binging on digital information far removed from local embodied communities. Even if it's information we debate or discuss with others online, we become lonelier because we're really debating avatars. not the movie, but like, I see people all the time, and I wonder sometimes, who is doing this? They're arguing. They don't know each other, but they're expending a ton of emotional energy arguing about, I don't know, politics.
I don't even want to argue with people I know. Why would I want to argue with someone I don't know?
Right. But would you agree that activity creates loneliness?
Yeah, because in essence, you're just talking to yourself.
Exactly. And now we can't even tell the difference between when we're talking to AI and talking to people.
Right.
As new studies reveal. We also, as a consequence of being overinformed, become delusional. Because of the algorithmic shape of information today, no two of us live in the same information universe.
Right.
We all see things differently in ways tweaked to please our preferences and biases.
That is true.
That's why it's funny to watch Comedy Central send a reporter to a political rally, whether it's the right or the left, and all they have to do is have some basic information, and they can make fools of people who have had such curated information, they've become totally delusional. They have no idea what's true.
And it shows up in real life with people like the fella several years back who went to a pizza shop to free the kids being held captive in the basement.
Yeah.
The shop had no basement. It was all just a made-up story circulating.
Yeah.
But he got so riled up about this falsehood that he brought a rifle and went in and was going to storm the basement and free the kids.
And he was a suburban husband and father. He became delusional from too much information.
Yeah.
And the final side effect of too much information, we become detached from reality. The cumulative effect of all of these other things in an uninformed life becomes a pseudo-real life. When awareness trumps action and we're more compelled by narratives than by reality, our sense of the world becomes even more surreal. Yeah?
Yeah, because your time in your own mind is filled with all the stuff that you can't do anything about, that you're nowhere near.
Yeah.
And it makes you lose sight of like, oh, my actual kid's in front of me, or my best friend and her personal life issue that she's going through right now.
Yeah.
Because you're just filling your mind with things from other places that you actually can't do anything about.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I wonder if this person might be really onto something, where we point at social media as the problem of some social ills, but maybe it runs even deeper. Maybe it's not social media in and of itself. It's too much information.
Yeah, I've started myself to just like scroll past those things. And I'm merely on social media for like the silliness.
Right.
Because I found myself diving way too deep into being informed about everything that's happening everywhere. And I can't actually care anymore.
I've reached a real similar tipping point, which is why this article intrigues me so much, is I've like, giving up is the wrong word, but it feels pretty close.
Yeah.
I used to go home every day because our schedule is weird, and I'd sit and have lunch in front of cable news to just keep up with what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
That drifted away. I used to feel like I need to know what's going on in the world to be effective on the air. But it just became so overwhelming, I'd miss things. I mean, it's too much.
Right.
And then I get anxious. I'm just kind of like, I don't know if I can do this anymore.
Yeah.
You feel that way?
Yes.
And so I wonder if this is really the problem. It's not social media. It's not the internet. It's not cable news. It's too much information. We all have just too much information.
The source is news and social media and whatever, but
yeah,
digging deep, the problem is we know too much.
Yeah, Sarah and I have family who what they do as a rule, they get up, turn on cable news, leave it on all day.
That
in
would
the background.
Get boring, because as I recall, I haven't watched cable news in a long time, but as I recall, it was about a half-hour cycle. So you'd watch them live for a half hour. They'd replay that half hour. The next hour, they'd have bits of that, and they'd fill in with a few news stories and repeat that. And so you're seeing the same thing over and over ad nauseum.
Yeah, and I can actually, when I talk to people, you can quickly find out not only where they get their information, but how much they consume it, because it's almost like suddenly they're just parroting a cable news channel or a website.
Yeah.
It's wild.
and they've got their talking points, so they can give you the one-liners. And you ask a follow-up question, well, I don't know. I only know the one rally point that I'm supposed to say.
But we find our identity in being informed.
Right. It's like,
And if you don't know, you're dumb.
right. It's
And
a commodity.
And if you don't know, you aren't doing your due diligence as a citizen. Or, as people tell us here, we're not doing our due diligence as Christians if we're not informed.
Yes. And at the beginning, I shared that idea, right, where information is worn like a garment to enhance one's status.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's what everybody loves: C.S. Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to believe he wrote this paragraph in his lifetime, back in like the 40s, but it's true. Here's what he wrote. It's one of the evils of rapid diffusion of news that the sorrows of all the world come to us every morning. I think each village was meant to feel pity for its own sick and poor, whom it can help, and I doubt if it's the duty of any private person to fix his mind on ills which he cannot help. This may even become an escape from the works of charity we really can do with those we know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A great many people do now seem to think that the mere state of being worried is in and of itself meritorious. I don't think it is.
Yeah, just being worried.
How prophetic.
Mm-hmm. And what can I do? I can go serve the unhoused in my community. I can go serve foster and adoptive families. I can go serve the teen moms in my community.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I can do. That's something I actually can do, instead of just being informed about wars and toils of other places.
Which is as you're implying, what the Christian life is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Is helping the poor, the destitute, the widow, the orphan, like actually helping them. Not just being angry that they exist in some other place or anxious about it.
Mm-hmm.
And as this person points out in the piece, we end up actually, the tragic consequence for Christians of the too much information is that we do nothing. Like we could all articulate all of the names and positions of the Supreme Court justices, but we don't know the mayor of our own town.
Right.
Like, I bet there's a bunch of people right now who can't name the mayor of their own town or any member of their local school board or the name of the ministry in town that helps the homeless and the hungry. That should convict, if it convicts me, it should convict all of us. And I think the solution you have, Lauren, may be just where the church needs to head. We no longer should treat information as a commodity. Like, should we be blissfully ignorant of what's going on in the world? So then how do we find a balance? When it's a fire hose in your pocket, right? When you open up your phone and slide open social media.
Have a time limit and a certain time of day.
Mm-hmm.
I'll look at my 10 a.m. break at work. And just for those 10 minutes, I'm seeing what's going on, and then I'm not doing it again until tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Or wait until other people tell you, because they will.
Mm-hmm.
Or even get back to the old strategy that Sarah and I have started to love, is just watch the local news.
Yeah. What's going on in Akron?
It's been like informative and nice. And because ultimately the real consequence of all this is many of us think we're flexing our Christian muscles a lot as we throw Christian ethics all over the internet. And yet our relationship with Christ is suffering dramatically because we spend almost no time reflecting on how our lives are a reflection of his character and what it means to follow and love him, because we're too busy getting drowned in information.